2016 Annual Report webinar. My name is Jeremy Jones. I am the West Coast Program Manager for PaintCare. Thank you again for the amazing amount of interest today for today's presentation. We do have a lot of people on the line. So I invite you to, as you listen to the webinar, watch the webinar, to provide your questions. I'll be able to see them as we go along, and if I do have immediate answers, I will be trying to answer them. If any of them I cannot answer, I'll be sure to take them offline. So thank you for joining us, and without further ado, I'll begin the presentation so we can leave as much time as possible for trying to respond to some questions. All right, so jumping into the presentation. For those, if many of you here are familiar with the program, but I do want to give, especially for folks who, I saw a number who registered who are not ensconced in this program, I want to bring everybody up to speed so that there's some context for that. So PaintCare itself is a nonprofit 501c3 organization that was created in 2009 by the American Coatings Association, and the point of this organization is to represent paint manufacturers in the states that have passed paint stewardship laws. The organization is governed by a board of architectural paint manufacturers and retailers, and basically what we do is, on behalf of the paint manufacturers, we design and implement all aspects of the paint stewardship programs, from planning, pre-program work to make sure that the program is to the standards of both the states as well as to what we understand to be the needs on the ground, to developing those standards. That's the organization's only function, really, is to make sure the paint stewardship program goes off and meets its goals that is set up in legislation and in our program plans across the PaintCare states. And speaking of the PaintCare states, we have basically what we see here, and I should say these are PaintCare jurisdictions now, because the District of Columbia began its program in this fall. So now we have California, Colorado, Connecticut, DC, Maine, Minnesota, Oregon, Rhode Island, and Vermont, with a combined population of 61 million people, 19% of the United States, and 200 manufacturers, and that number has only increased and will continue to increase as we continue to go forward and add more states. The stewardship law, just to go way back for folks who haven't been here from the beginning, was passed in September of 2010 in California, and requires the manufacturers to implement a program to collect, transport, process post-consumer paint, and the main purposes here are to reduce post-consumer paint, promote reuse and using up so that it doesn't need to be disposed of or recycled, potentially, and if it does, to make sure that it's done in a responsible way at the end of life. So now that you have the background about the program, the general background, let's talk about how the program here in California is conducted. We have the program divided into 5 regions and color coordinated for each of the coordinators. Nothing has changed in terms of the regions since last year, and either in staffing or in the composition of the regions. So just to bring maybe everybody up to full speed on how these are divided, you've got the Southern California dividing line. That's Brandon in the western portion. So LA County, Santa Barbara, Ventura, Kern, and San Luis Obispo. Nicole Hall in red with Imperial, San Diego, Riverside, San Bernardino, and Orange counties. And then as you go northward, there is a small bracket where we've got Nicole Dorr handling the Central Valley, the Nevada border, as well as the peninsula, San Mateo and San Francisco. Then Terry Ryan handles the rest of the Bay Area into San Joaquin County and down to Santa Cruz, Monterey. And then Northern California belongs primarily to Darien Kent. as our coordinator up there in a more predominantly rural area of the state of California. 58 counties, 5 coordinators, 40 million people, and I am the program manager for this state. Registered manufacturers and products, so you've got 232 registered manufacturers. We've added 10 since last year. The list of program products, again, for some of the folks who are new to the program, we are predominantly looking at architectural paints, and those encompass latex oil-based paints, as well as sealer stains, lacquers, and varnishes. Products that are not part of the program are aerosols, OEM and industrial maintenance coatings, specialty coatings, thinners, and solvents, and caulking compound. That's not an exhaustive list, but that covers the primary categories. Program products are assessed the PaintCare fee and are accepted at drop-off sites. That's kind of the correlation if it is a program product. A fee is assessed on the product at point of purchase, and thus those products can be accepted for take-back. The way this works, the big broad brush schematic of how it works is the manufacturer places a fee on the piece on the product and passes that through to the distributor retailer and then to the customer. If it's just a paint manufacturer such as a Sherwin-Williams or a Dunn Edwards, somebody who makes their own paint, there may not be a distributor retailer necessarily or a distributor involved, but there's always a retailer who will be selling it down to the customer, and it's obligated by law to pass the fee along. And then the 75 cents going from your left to your right to PaintCare, that's how to ensure that the circle is complete. So paint is collected at a number of different locations through the program, and this is a pretty good encompassing list. We've got retailers across the state, HHW facilities that were in existence before the PaintCare program was in existence. Transfer stations, landfills, recycling centers also play a key role in many areas of the state. Paint recyclers, the people who actually do recycle the paint, they actually also take in the paint. There's a handful of those in California. We've got reuse stores and a few of those who are interested in both perhaps helping to bring paint into the community where they actually are, can help to perhaps put paint out for reuse as well as take in paint to pass along for recycling. There are HHW events that again existed before PaintCare that continue to occur, and PaintCare has made them part of its collection system. And then there are paint-only events, and what that means is that there are paint-only events that PaintCare itself sponsors and is collaborating often with local authorities to try to make sure we put those in the right places and to make sure that those go off swimmingly. There's also large volume pickups. Large volume pickups, we're actually changing the name of that in this year's annual report to ad hoc pickups. These are essentially large quantities of paint that are offered to us by either organizations quite often or contractors, a diverse group of people who have accumulated paint. Residents often accumulate a lot of paint, and those folks can give us a call and or contact us via the web to set up a dedicated pickup for themselves. Then we also have a number of door-to-door programs that are run across the state, about a little bit less than 20 of those throughout the state that fill an important role in bringing paint collection to the doorstep in many cases. Who can use the program for latex products? It's come one, come all, and for oil-based products, there is a limit on limiting the program for businesses to small businesses, also known as CESQGs, conditionally exempt small quantity generators. So this is a program mainly for the small business, the contractor, as folks in the larger quantity generator realm often have existing arrangements with their waste providers for paint disposal, oil-based paint disposal. Large volume pickup service. So no additional cost for folks who are doing this. This is a good example of a large volume pickup, what it often looks like. Neatly stacked up and ready to go. 300-gallon minimum is the typical case. In certain areas of Southern California, we do have some. We've been opening up to some of the local recyclers there are able to accommodate smaller volumes because of proximity. So that is something that was new this year that we had not done before. So if you do know of anyone as you're listening to this who have accumulated a significant amount of paint, I'll just take this opportunity to plug large volume pickup service because it is truly it's becoming very popular. We've noticed, and a good way to be efficient at getting at the paint that's out there. So please do give a call or pass this information along to a colleague if you do know of someone who knows that they need to get rid of a lot of paint. We also have a large volume service. This is a contracted service that we have with organizations or perhaps large contractors who deal primarily in latex paint, who would like to have a regular service. And this would, when I say regular, it's usually it's going to be at least once a year, maybe twice a year, perhaps more. It usually is something that we figure out after we start working with an organization to see if they are in fact going to be needing us to pick up their material on a frequent basis. So the generator who participates in this program receives containers, packs the paint themselves, and they will need to have 3 bins at a time. So each bin holding about 120-gallon pails, and less. And necessarily, if you have 5-gallon pails, they don't stack quite as perfectly as the ones, but that ends up being about 300 gallons per pickup by the container size. And just for reference, we have, I believe in the annual report we say we have about 38 to 40 of these folks on a regular basis throughout the state. Paint transportation. So we have 2 main providers across the state, Clean Harbors and Stericycle, that statewide. Regionally, there are some other folks, and those are enumerated in the annual report. What they do is, well, they form the backbone of the collection service and the primary agents of the program. They are on call or do pre-scheduled pickups. It's a mix. Sometimes we know something's going to happen weekly. We have them pre-scheduled. However, the majority of folks can't quite predict the demand. Either it's seasonal or it's just not quite predictable. So on-call is the predominant method of pickup. We provide, the Clean Harbors Stericycle provide collection containers, spill kits. That's a very important component of the program. We do have some sites that are using reusable bins, others that are not able to do so for space considerations. So it's a mix of types of collection containers based on the situation and the facility capabilities. Processing services, and then they provide data and transportation and processing for all the program products. These are the ways in California that paint is managed, whether through reuse, recycled paint. These are the predominant methods. Recycled paint being the predominant method for latex paint. We'll talk about the results from this year upcoming. And we'll just walk through these fairly briskly to show you we have some alternative products. Many of them are unique to California and being done nowhere else. So those are pretty interesting. Definitely eye-catching and something to look for folks who are joining us from other states who might be looking to try to stimulate some of that in their own communities. We have energy recovery, alternatively cover, and least preferentially landfill. So these are in order of preference according to the waste hierarchy. And then oil-based paint reuse is, of course, preferred. Energy and recovery incineration are 2 different methods of making the best of what you can with oil-based paint at the end of life. So here's a reuse shelf, for example, and we know these are becoming increasingly popular. In this past year, we implemented a reuse incentive program where we increased the incentive to California sites that would like to set out paint for reuse. Incredible results, I would say. in terms of the amount of material that was on the latex side that was recovered. That's one of the key results, I think, of this year's program to note, and we hope it will continue as we take on more reuse programs who focus more on that. Paint recycling, this process kind of follow the arrows from intake to organization and batching and into colors, and then finally into some type of finished product. Alternative products, again, the first two steps are the same, but then you can see that you've got some cement blocks or blocks that have been mixed together to create what looks to be a masonry block, and then you've got some soft rock that could be used for decorative garden cover. These are products that are I don't know if they're exactly unique to California, but they're definitely something that reflect the alternative products that are happening in the state currently. And then energy recovery is one of the primary means for oil-based paint to get drummed and processed and then sent to an energy recovery facility. It looks like a cement. This one would be a cement kiln. So in terms of recycling opportunities, one of the things that we're doing this year that we did not do last year, I thought this was a great response from Cal Recycle, who helped us out to improve the program and improve the way that we communicate the accomplishments of the program, is to show what happened from year to year. So this year, we wanted to show year 3 to year 4 the types of locations. So you can see went from 733 to 776, an increase on the retail side, HHW facilities, and then 5 more on that side. And then, so looking at the rest of them, we did some recategorization. It's hopefully a little bit more clear and spelled out what exactly, or how many are exactly in each category now. So before we had 25 total between transfer stations, landfills, and recycling centers, and now you can see those have been split out into the 3 components, and to see that we now have, between those, we have 38. So we added 13 from among those 3 categories. And then on the other side, we've got some other sites, and that includes fire stations and other places that just don't fit into the typical category for facilities, but they are courtyards that don't fit in the primary categories, 6 of those, and then a couple more reuse stores, similar number of paint recyclers in the previous year. And then I think what's also interesting is to see, it could be useful to note the uptick in HHW events from one year to the next, 209 to 247. Some of that reflects the fact that we're taking on new programs, who we had not previously worked with to cover their HHW events. Some of it reflects just an increased number of HHW events. Some programs are deciding to run a few more because of their knowing that the cost of the paint recovery is going to be taken care of through the events. So it's a little bit of a mix. Ad hoc direct pickups, that's the LVP pickups I referred to previously. As you can see, those have moved up to from 184 to 210. One thing to note on those, just kind of a small insight that I've gleaned over time, is that we're seeing more of them, but the volume of paint coming in through them has actually gone down from previous years. So we're not seeing big direct pickups like we used to. A lot of folks have been cleaned out, perhaps, the biggest caches, but it's good to see more people are taking advantage of the service. Recurring direct pickups, so 14 extra contracts were signed with folks who wanted to have, had the need for a recurring service instead of an ad hoc service. Door-to-door programs stayed the same. Seasonal HHW facilities, this number is not necessarily that one dropped off. It could be that one maybe became full-time. I'm not exactly sure, but that reflects sites that may be open only a portion of the year. We had 5 paint-only events this program year. We had more in the calendar year, but just 5 during the period of that we're talking about here, June 30 to July, or July 1st to June 30. And then the last 3 sort of reflect partial year folks who may have dropped out or came on perhaps late in the year. So what do we do for the sites? So we provide site training and guidelines. This is to folks, this is primarily in the retail realm, but also for any programs in the HHW community. When we bring on a new program, we walk them through some of the specific aspects of the program that are unique to the PaintCare program. We do provide site visits across the program year. All the 5 coordinators have a sites numbering in the hundreds to have to keep in contact with and make sure that they are fully attended to. Anything that they might need in terms of either retrainings for new staff, things like that, are conducted through site visits, and just keeping tabs on the implementation of the program in the field. We've got collection bins that we provide, as I mentioned, volume limits. So we let folks know that just really depends on what they have or what their situation is in terms of what they can accept at a given time. And we work with folks to try to optimize that for their situation and also to benefit the public. And then we also provide pickups as folks need it. So a little bit of an update on our coordination efforts. We have now 105 HHW partnerships as of the end of the program year, and that encompasses all of not just the county HHW programs, but any cities who run their own HHW programs. So there's only 58 counties in California, so that encompasses really all the various smaller or subdivisions of counties, perhaps such as this. I'll just give a shout out here to Salinas Valley, who came on during the program year. That's a subdivision of a county program within a county. So that's why that's more than 58 counties. So we do continue to meet and attend with the HHWIE meetings, ESGAPA, to make sure we stay in touch with the community, present when asked or when we've got something to talk about, something that's new, talking about our new reuse rate or something like that, or really just updates for the program. And then we attended both the CRRA and Coupa conference down in Anaheim, California, CRRA up in Sacramento, and stakeholder meetings throughout the state where it is relevant. And one of our areas of focus for the coming year is going to be with the tribal communities who have expressed some interest in the program. And now that we have met with them, we're getting some great feedback on how we can help service that community as well. We've also noted that in the past year we've really kind of redoubled our efforts to stay close to city and county and corporate contacts to work with them for any new sites, especially on the retail side, new sites to help bring them up or transition when sites close. It was always something that we did, but just being more proactive about that, knowing what's around the corner, and then if any events were to be, new events come into play, working very closely with cities and counties to make sure that the sites are right, in the right places, where the need is, or if there is some kind of considerations we should be mindful of. It was our great honor to receive the Bow and Arrow Award from the California Product Stewardship Council for coalition building, and hopefully that's reflective of some of the bullet points here on the slide. So let's talk about the description of the program goals and the activities. So this is a little bit more about the law in California. The program plan convenience goals tell us that we have to have one site within 15 miles for 90% of the state's residents, and we do, and have and do, and then have a density criteria, one site for an additional 30,000 residents of a population center as defined. And so this is, we propose to change this based on some new information, remodeling of the GIS. Really, we now understand far more about how the population is distributed in California, and needed to really dig in to understand where the program was meeting the need and not meeting the need. And so we're proposing a revision really to be more realistic. I think the previous model wasn't, sorry, can everyone hear me? Previous model wasn't quite as robust as it needed to be, and so a full description of this is in Appendix F.
Jeremy, I was hearing you, but you faded out momentarily.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm getting some messages that the audio is fading out, but okay. Anyway, so a full description of this is in Appendix F. of the annual report, and it's really great, and really excited that we'll be able to really drill down and find where the program can be a better service to the population of California. The result of this is this revised GIS calculation so that we are still well in excess of the 90% for distribution. 98% of the state's population lives within 15 miles of a site, and including supplemental sites, we're at 98.7. And so to visualize this, the 776 year-round drop-off sites, you've got 98% here, and this is a new presentation again, but this is really the same a similar visualization to what we used in the past to help see where the sites are, and also perhaps I think an improvement here is better defining where the population centers are in California. Here are the supplemental sites and events. So the layering on, or sorry, this is separate now, so you can see in the orange where all the so many HHW events, and especially if you can draw your attention to the Los Angeles area, so many in the Los Angeles area, HHW events really providing needed coverage in that area. And then also here in Central Valley, those events are, I believe, part of the reason why we have more HHW events is here in Stanislaus County. So you can kind of take a look at that and get a sense of what the non-permanent sites are, sorry, the non-year-round sites, such as some of the seasonal sites here in Inyo County. And then it's just to visualize where are the large volume pickups happening. And you can see, as you might imagine, it's concentrated very much in the two largest population centers, being the Bay Area, San Francisco and environs, and Los Angeles and environs. And I guess to look at this, it seems a bit more concentrated, large volume pickups in the Bay Area. And then you can also see where the recurring direct sites are. And again, as you might imagine, many of them are in populated areas, but quite a few are also located a bit farther out. So looking at our events for the paint collection events that PaintCare puts on, there's Daria Kent, our Northern California coordinator. The list here, it's not the 5 that was in the table. I just wanted to include ones that occurred after the program year ended to incorporate some others such as Santa Monica and Truckee that occurred in the fall of this year. Looking at 2017, Palmdale, Lancaster, and LA County are some that were being targeted, and Hemet will definitely be going back to Riverside County for Hemet. That event was a huge success and an amazing partnership with the city of Hemet right there, and the county of Riverside. Very pleased with how that one turned out. More to come. We're actually just planning those coming up. More to come for sure. In terms of volume, again, this is more of the comparability from year to year, so folks can see a little bit more of the trends versus years in isolation. The sales increased from 5.7% from 2005 after a dip in between year 2 and year 3. But in all honesty, it looks like it's just about where it was back in year 2, FY 2014. And then looking at how much paint was processed. Again, trying to compare year to year. From year 2, we'd expect a big uptick from previous year. What we notice now as the program is getting a little bit more mature, we've got 35% growth last year and now 15% this year in increased paint. Processed paint has increased by 15%. The share of latex continues to increase, as one might expect, given the dominance of latex paint in the paint market. And the recovery rate, which is again something we didn't really, I don't think we were tracking year to year, but here we've got it here in one place. You can see the recovery rate going from 1.6 in the first year, and then progressing 2.9, 4.1 to 4.5. And I guess a good thing to note about this is that the recovery rate increased even as the sales increased. So that's always a good thing to see, that we're recovering, our recovery is outpacing the increase in sales. Here's the breakdown again to compare year to year. of how paint was processed. The recycled paint processing amount went down, not by volume, but by percentage, as a result of changing conditions and perhaps changing material conditions. Quality of paint is always a variable. Marking conditions is also a variable that reflects what ends up as recycled paint. So this is a good comparison to see year to year, but the big top line, bottom line number, you see latex paint from 2.25 million to 2.6, and then oil-based paint incrementally going up from about 460 to about 500,000 gallons. One thing I would like to draw everyone's attention to is the increase in reuse for latex paint from 56,000 gallons last year, or the previous year, to 111,000 gallons. Not too shabby, I would say, to go from 3 to 4% in 1 year. Again, we're hopeful that this trend will continue by continuing to incentivize reuse. Financing mechanism. So again, we'll revisit this finance mechanism, how the PaintCare fee is structured. Again, the pass-through through the consumer to PaintCare from the manufacturers. Just to remind folks of that. So how do we spend the money? And this is, I mean, the paint transportation and processing is the lion's share and what we're here for. However, sites do require supplies such as collection containers, spill kits, and canopy and fencing occasionally to help make sure that the program sites, 776 year-round sites, are attended to so that they can function without any financial impact on them, and they can, as many of these locations are doing this voluntarily. We've got multilingual outreach. We've got staff in state, all state staff helping us to keep contracts up to date, things like that, insurance, legal fees, consulting services to help us pull together, such as the GIS, making the maps look presentable and accurate, as well as state agency fees. So the breakdown here is as follows. Again, kind of a comparison year to year. Things did increase, but of course the volume increased, so you're going to see an increased amount of transportation and processing, which is again it's up in the 60s in terms of cost, and then administration going kind of in flux with or flowing quite along with the increased needs of the program across the year. Percentage-wise, I looked at this from year to year. Not all that much has shifted. There was an increase in education and outreach. Really, because the recovery rate is a bit low, was a bit low on the low side compared to some other states. Again, it's kind of reflective of the fact that we're still trying to gain a little more traction with the public to try to get more, basically just try to get more paint. That's what's driving the education and outreach need. However, I do see in the future that this will be decreasing over time as the program matures. Here's the media mix. Digital and social does form the lion's share of the media mix. This mix hasn't really changed all that much. A little bit more print, a little less outdoor, but this hasn't changed all that much from last year. Here's an example of some of the signage that we have in the paint for the paint program. Very similar to last year. But this gives you a feel for what is on offer for stores to help promote the program at their site, and then to help, in the case of abandoned waste, to try to help that not be a problem for the stores. These no dumping signs are provided on request. In many cases they're not needed, but if they do become needed, we gladly provide them to the stores at no cost to them. And then also to let folks know right up front what they can bring, what they can't bring. We've gotten great feedback from folks on how this, but also honing them over time to try to meet new needs. One of those examples is some of the print materials. We've got mini cards and brochures and things like that, but we also in the middle there we have a signature mat that has been really popular with stores. It puts the program front and center for people when they come into the paint store, and definitely get a lot of requests for them, and found that that's a good way to get in front of people in a real casual, not too pushy way as they look down and conduct their retail transactions. Very unique project we put together this year with a San Francisco-based artist named Saran Norris. Made us based on the buy right, use it up, recycle the rest paradigm that the program operates under. Put together 3 temporary murals, each with a different message. So you can see it's quite vibrant, eye-catching art. So this project was a real good way to get some people, I think, who may not always be thinking about paint recycling to maybe give it a second look or third look. Facebook followers. So we continue the trend in California of of being the most populous PaintCare state, and then still also forming over 50% of the Facebook followers. We at the last year's report we had said we had about 30,000 followers. That has doubled since last year. So I believe we're up to 65,000 as of right now. So Facebook continues to be a good place to reach people and getting them integrated with the program. Print advertising, some new stuff here. We ran an HGTV ad about product stewardship, and a good way to get out into some very likely audiences for this message, to let people know about the message of paint recycling and the idea of thinking about this as you're doing your upgrades for your houses and your apartments or condominiums or wherever you happen to live. So this was something new, and I think a good way to reach out to an audience who's definitely receptive to this message. And then also shown here are some ads that we run for new sites, sort of let people know what they have offered in their area. We have a new ad this year called "Keep What You Need, Recycle the Rest," this is using the use it up mentality, and this is basically finding interesting ways to try to get kids to through home projects or things like that, to try to get people to discover that they might be able to do something else with their paint besides recycle it. And then we've got some other ads that continue from last year. The Goldilocks ad, just buying the right amount and figuring out through the stores how to buy the right amount using those. Billboards and buses, some new messages, some new, so it's good business to recycle leftover paint, and of course considering the Hispanic and Spanish language outreach is very key across all mediums. The website basically shows that advertising does have an impact. I think we had a run of advertisements through through November last year, and it definitely paid dividends in getting traffic to the website. And the main thing, this is kind of the gist of why we would do something with digital advertising and focusing on that, is because the main reason that what people do when they visit our website is they look for a place to drop off their paint. It's kind of that direct linkage. We put that drop off your paint, find a place to drop off your paint front and center message on the website, and so driving web traffic to the website seems to have a serious and important correlation towards getting people to actually bringing their paint into a store. So I use that site locator all the time. I work for PaintCare, and I use it all the time myself. Just to know what's what in a given area. So good to see that that spike, because November is not typically a big month, I think, on our website, but I think the marketing did work. We also, as we annually conducted a survey, and some of the key insights from the survey that I took away and wanted to share with you was that the trend of less paint being stored is a real thing. We see people, definitely do keep paint over time, but what I've noted is that the amounts are, when I think one of the options is less than 1 gallon, that doubled the amount of people with less than 1 gallon of paint. Now it's just one survey. We'll have to see over time how it plays out, but that was one encouraging result that I saw. Another insight here is a 55% increase in those who said they recycled and disposed paint this year. So that seems to follow if that people would have less leftover paint if they had recently done it, recently recycled or disposed of paint. So that's a really encouraging sign as well. I encourage you to take a look at the survey and in the annual report to see what other insights we have there. Coming to the end here, I think what we're looking for in 2016, or sorry, the 2017 as we go forward, we're looking to grow reuse. That's a huge priority. Clearly that has benefits all across the board environmentally. It will be fiscally responsible for the program. Definitely provides a benefit to the environment. I think it's a win for everybody. So reuse and our growing reuse programs is something we really are going to be focusing on. Keep existing sites engaged with the program. This is kind of something that is an evergreen priority for us. We have to stay engaged. It is the lifeblood of the program to stay engaged with the sites and making sure that they're advocates for the program whenever possible and executing on the goals and efforts of the program. Engage HHW programs, not yet in the program. That's something that I think is very important as well, because there's 60–70% of the folks or stores out there are not part of the program, and so getting a little bit outside of the bubble, that also is really important for us to make sure everyone has a good good touch with the program, even if they're not in the program. And then our new GIS modeling is providing a really exciting opportunity by combining it with our field work. Our field staff really keep them in touch with the service levels in some of the targeted areas. We know that from the new GIS modeling that we've got some new insights of where we might be looking at to try to either bring new sites on board, have events if that's something that makes sense, and so bringing that together, that anecdotal knowledge of field work and some GIS modeling to help us know where some of our gaps might be is a huge area of focus. And there are many more, but those are just the 4 that I wanted to call out for this webinar. And we are at the end of my presentation, so here's my contact information and then a little photo of us getting the Bow and Arrow Award at CRA on my left, and that's the rest of the PaintCare California crew, Nicole, Daria, Nicole, Brandon, and Terry. And with that, I will end my presentation. Again, if you have questions, feel free to share them. I see we have had one question come in, and we have it was a question about the outreach budget, a lot of it being used for digital social media. Why so much for social media, and what results were achieved? And I might have to take some of that question offline, but I think I tried to address that a little bit by saying that getting the social media being driving traffic to the website, getting people to find out where their location is, it kind of stimulates the behavior. In terms of what results were achieved, I'll try to follow up with you offline on that, but I think that it's pretty clear that direct connect of getting people to think about where they can take their paint and stimulate some action is one of the key focuses, and reflective in the hits to the website. Let's see. The question coming here is, can you explain why the cost per gallon continues to increase while the number of gallons is also increasing? So I think right now what we see is we see really a reflection of getting the program ramped up, and really a function of the outreach to get people to be aware of the program. That, I think, when you see a cost that is incremental cost, I think we're going to see that trend reverse in the coming years to come, where with the program being more mature, some of the other expenses that were involved in the startup, such as marketing or building awareness of the program, can sort of be pulled back, and a lot of the demand can just be a natural demand that's based on the awareness. I don't think we can ever really pull back from engaging the public, but with outreach. But I think that's part of it. It's just really, I think, it's symptomatic of potentially the program still being startup mode, and it's something we're definitely watching over time to try to keep that cost per gallon number under control. Another question here is, do you pick up from project job sites? It's an interesting question. And I'll try to answer that one offline. We've never really been asked that question. I may suppose we could come to relay where paint is. We go pick it up, but sometimes it takes some time to set up those pickups, so it may depend on the project job site and how long it will be in use. So, but I'll take that question offline and see what your particular situation is, and try and help you out best I can. So, thank you for that question. And I am at the end of the list of questions, so if we do have about 10 more minutes here, or 15 minutes. If anyone else has a question, or 10 more minutes by my clock. If anyone else has a follow-up question or things they'd like to ask, I'm totally here for you. And if you are feeling type-tied or tongue-tied in any way, feel free to so you've got a couple more questions in here. Thank you. Let's see. Fee increases expected as recovery volumes go up. Fee increases expected. Well, our projections on fee increase, or on a fee increase for the state of California, imagines that a fee increase may be down the line, but it does seem to be really down the line quite a bit. It really will depend on the recovery rate and also sales. So sales, if a recovery rate continues to grow as it has, and sales do not grow as they in tandem, it could happen. But I don't see that for the near term, but it certainly is a long-term consideration. When I say long-term, I'm saying maybe 4 or 5 years into the future. Why don't more retailers sign up? Well, that's an interesting question. The concept of a paint take-back program is even after being out in the field, for a lot of people, it's just simply I don't want to do it. I'm not interested. But more often than not, the concerns I think are perhaps more prosaic, and in certain areas it's simply a matter of space. And that's not to say it can't work in a small space. Certainly the city county of San Francisco is a good example of that, of having a program that's been working, a collection take-back program that's been working in very, very close quarters. But the typical situation requires a box that a lot of stores, or a couple of boxes that stores aren't often able to fit. So it's a good question why more retailers don't show up. If they have the space and they have the will, there's a way. There's not a lot of reason not to do it necessarily. Most folks report it as good for their business and helps to differentiate from other places. So, but it's a question we always ask ourselves. And I think honestly, a lot of times many times it's a space issue, not a matter of wanting to do it. Though that is a factor. Next question: is there any education outreach effort being done to manufacturers, retailers to sell right in addition to the buy right to the public? And I can't speak to like a coordinated effort on the manufacturer retailer sell right, but I think when in the community, the message we always talk to, the Goldilocks is to talk to your specialist about buying right. Again, it seems like it's actually a standard practice to work with the contractor, work with the homeowner on the project to try to figure out how to get them the right amount of paint. Again, I'm speaking a little off the cuff here because my field experience is that that stores tend to look, they themselves have reported to me that they don't want to look bad, that they look bad when they oversell to customers, and therefore they almost have to, a lot of times they have to talk folks out of buying the 5-gallon when really just a 2-gallon, two 1-gallon pails might be sensible for them. So it's an interesting question. I want to talk to Paul in outreach to see what is to be done there, and I would like to talk to you as well personally offline to see what you're hearing and seeing out in the real world. hopefully that helps. Next question. Well, it's not really a question. It just says somebody would like to info of setting up a program. So yes, definitely, I will be contacting you about that. So thank you for that. Looks like from the Los Angeles School District. So thank you. Any other questions that you'd like? We've still got 5 more minutes. Give it a couple minutes. Oh, thanks. Somebody said thanks for answering their question. You're welcome. Well, I will close today's webinar by saying thank you so much. Again, if any questions come in the last couple minutes here, I'll be glad to answer them. Otherwise, my contact info is on your screen right now, and you can pick up the phone and give me a call. I would love to speak with you, get to know more about your program, your situation, tell your friends, tell your family to participate in our program. And for those of you who joined us from outside of the state of California and you're looking to either improve your program, an existing program state, or you'd like to make things warm in your state like it is in California. I don't know if I can do anything about that. But yeah, please give me a call, and I'm glad to share our experiences here in California. The program does have obviously things it needs to work on and wants to improve, but I think you'll see from this year's annual report that we're really moving in a positive direction on many fronts. So thank you so much for your attendance today. And no, Marty, I'm not wishing I was back in Minnesota today. So thank you very much for joining us today. Have a great day.